Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of the Earthen Hand podcasts. I am Scott Howard with Earthen Hand Natural Building, and today my guest is Mr. Raymond Fernando. Hey, thanks for being here, Raymond.
Thank you, Scott. Glad to be here also.
It's really such a pleasure to have this conversation with you and do this more extended interview today. I had the wonderful opportunity to meet you recently through our mutual friend, Mr. Dan Winter, of course, who talks a lot about this phenomena of seeing without eyes. And you are the head of a school known as the Ruwan Education Center in New Zealand that teaches children and some other folks how to see without their eyes with the blindfold on. And
Right, yes.
this is a phenomena that we talk a lot about in implosion physics, what Dan Winter teaches about. And it's a very amazing phenomena that happens inside the human being and something that most people generally don't know about. So I felt compelled to do this interview with you to just get the word out to everybody about this amazing opportunity to better ourselves and improve our the state of humanity through this amazing skill. And so yeah, I'm hoping you can share some of the nitty gritty details with us today about how you're able to teach people to do this skill and what it's really like for you as the educator. So again, people who go through your program, they can read words, they can handle objects with a completely blacked out blindfold on, correct?
That's right, yes. They can do most of the things that you do with your eyes open, reading, playing, even driving, dancing, almost everything they can do with their eyes blindfolded.
Amazing.
Yes.
And maybe you can elaborate a little bit about how the students initially get into developing this skill.
Children, especially, they have this ability. Children already have this ability. So, with children, it's more about uncovering what they already have. Right.
Wow.
So, sometimes it may be blocked due to some trauma or something in their past, but most children respond very quickly because it is an innate ability. The reason is if you think of the brain waves, children are most of the time they are in alpha or even theta in those brain states, and it is easy for them to manifest this ability. And another thing is children don't have all the doubts that we adults collect over the years, right? So what happens with adults, because from the time we go to school, we depend on our eyes and the other senses to interact with the world, we come to think that it is the only way. We think it is the only way. And if somebody says, no, you can see without eyes, we are not ready to accept it because that's not in our mindset. So it requires a change of mind. It's like if you have heard of the parable of the cave, Plato's parable of the cave.
Yes, of
To a
course.
person, I think you have heard.
Yes.
So for that person, the entire world is the cave. he doesn't know any other reality. And it's only when they come out of the cave, they realize there is a whole world outside. It's similar to that. So in our country, we call it like the frog in the well. The frog in the well, it is the whole universe for him. It doesn't know there is a world outside. So with adults, it takes a bit of time only because we have to get them to change over the mindset. And also, when we go into the history of this ability, we find in places like India, it had been there over in the previous, about say even 5,000 years ago. It was a known ability. And in China, some respected uh, professors from universities are conducting research onto this ability. One famous person is Professor Li Shen. He is the Vice Chancellor of the National University of Taiwan. He was trained as a specialist software conductor, but he is now doing research onto this similar ability. They call it finger reading. Children reading with their fingers on. And it's more amazing things, even more amazing things than that they are doing in China. So we are actually rediscovering a human ability that we all have.
Incredible. It's so exciting. And as I shared with you at our last meeting, and this is something that I always dreamed about even as a young kid. And I knew there was a potential for these extra abilities, but I didn't know exactly how to train them or unlock them. I would attempt things on my own. I would attempt telekinesis and so on. I think that's quite common when you ask people. People when they're at a young age, young kids, they believe everything is possible still, and I think that's healthy.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, tell us a little bit about your school. I mean, how many students have you taught, and how many students do you have now, and where are they from, and what age groups are they from?
I haven't kept a record of how many we have trained, but it could be close to 100 because we have been doing this for nearly 10 years. And prior to COVID, I used to go overseas to teach. I had the course in India, Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, and of course Sri Lanka. So I haven't actually kept a list, but right now I teach online, and even online I don't remember, but it could be close to 100.
What ages are the
Trained.
students?
Yes, right now I have about 4 children from USA and about 4 adults from different parts of the world. One is from Slovenia, from Mexico, from France, and from Canada, all over the world, adults.
Wow. Okay. So adults can learn this as well.
Yes, adults can. And I had a lady from Australia who started to see colors during the very first session. The very first session, she was able to recognize colors. So that's how we proceed. The first thing is we ask you to sense colors, and then letters, numbers, words, and then the whole book. So she was amazing. She was able to do that, yes.
Right. And the woman in Germany, she's your business partner, right?
But first she was a student, and then I found that she was very good, and we came to an arrangement. And she used to teach mainly live. She had live classes, and she can do this in 3 days. With children and adults, she trained so many within 3 days.
Amazing.
She's
Really, really
yes,
incredible. I
yes.
mean, to me, this is something that everyone is going to want to know about, and I'm surprised it kind of hasn't gotten out yet. You know, I never heard about it until last year when I was talking with Dan Winter, and he showed me there's another school in I believe it's the Netherlands. There's several
That's right.
schools around Europe, and I know there's a school in Mexico. Um,
Yes, that's
and
right.
then I heard of your school that you're in New Zealand, but you're also teaching online and traveling. So there are a number of schools around the world. Taiwan, you mentioned.
Yes.
So just very exciting stuff, and I just totally admire and appreciate what you're bringing into the world, and I think it
Yeah.
fits really well, you know, with the theme of everything that I'm bringing, because even my podcast, you know, it's about natural building, it's about bioarchitecture, but it's also about beauty and holistic design and fulfillment and a holistic fulfilling life, you know. And so being healthy and being um, the best that we can be, the greatest development of ourselves that we can achieve, I think is all connected in there. So, and again, explaining how the physics of implosion actually is connected with this ability that people can develop seeing without their eyes. And the physics of implosion also explains things like, you know, why things fall to the ground and all orbital mechanics, you know, and a lot of these things in nature, the phenomena in nature that are related to fractality and wave mechanics, as we would call it, and also, you know, the design of these holistic natural homes that promote health and well-being. It's all interconnected. So I'm excited to explore, you know, how these things can positively influence our society and ourselves internally, and I want to learn myself. So I'm really excited to learn.
Right. Scott, to go over what you said about the places in Mexico alone, I understand there are about 4,000 teachers. Next is Germany, and then Netherlands. They are very strong in Netherlands. It's mainly, and then of course China. I don't think other England, America is only the people that I know. Yes, so we need to take this along. I think you are doing a great service by bringing this to the attention of the people. And about Dan Winter, the great contribution that he has made is he went to study the children in Netherlands, and he, with his instruments, he was able to see what happens inside the head of the child when he sees blindfolded. So he was able to show the changes that take place, and from that we know what is required for children to effectively learn this habit quickly. And the third point you mentioned about physics, uh, now there is also quantum physics as opposed to Newtonian physics. This is about quantum because at the quantum level, all information is available. So I would say this is a manifestation of that ability because children are not using, you are not using the physical eyes, you are using consciousness and you are tapping into the matrix or the field, whatever you want to call it, the quantum space. And
Yes.
I want to mention, unfortunately, I can't show it, the video. I had a child at one stage, I could ask her to multiply 1, 2, 3 by 3, 2, 1, and she instantly gave the answer.
Yes.
And then I asked her, what is the Japanese word for vehicle? What is the Polish word for chair? And she was able to answer immediately. So that is because she was accessing information from the matrix. And what we encourage children in our program, we tell them, as we proceed, we tell them to look for a screen, inner screen, on which answers appear. That is the ultimate goal of the program, where children can access that inner screen. Now, that's the concept. That's the concept I learned very early, and I have with every child and with every adult. I try to help them to access that inner screen. I think you are familiar with that concept. If you have been doing silver mind control, he uses that idea of a mental screen.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for sharing. It's like the Akashic records. And yeah, I do believe in that. There's an ability to tap into information at will, and some of us have some of that coming out of childhood. I think I had that, just being a builder and understanding three-dimensional space very well, being able to sculpt, and I think some of that is due to just tapping in to that information. And I wanted to add that you had mentioned earlier about the alpha and the theta brainwave states. And the device that you mentioned that Dan is using is a Muse 2 headband
Flame in Mind.
with the Flame in
Isn't it
Mind
the Flame in
software.
Mind? Yes.
Exactly. So I got that equipment, and I haven't really used it that much for measuring brain waves, but I'm curious about that. And so far, I'm just using that equipment to measure the weak electrical field in spaces, either architectural spaces or outdoors. And I've been comparing the signatures of places like a forest, a natural forest, to certain buildings. And so if we have buildings that more or less are similar to the signature of a natural forest, then that building is a success. Then it's harnessing and resonating with the Earth's vibration, and not blocking it. So that's kind of the direction I've taken it so far, taking a lot of data using the Flame in Mind software. But I think going toward measuring brain waves is applicable to so many studies. And you're talking about alpha, theta, and gamma, right? Gamma being the most rare brainwave state that's associated with even incredible abilities and psychedelics and
Yes.
kundalini awakening and consciousness expansion. So it's all interconnected and very exciting. And I think that we should go into more about the impact of learning this skill or these multiple skills that you teach, like the seeing without the eyes, tapping into that inner screen and the inner matrix knowledge, and doing those rapid calculations or rapid learning. You had mentioned at an earlier conversation we had about quantum learning and quantum speed reading. Things like these abilities are affecting the brain in a certain way. So can you elaborate and comment about the cognitive augmentation that happens through studying these abilities?
Right. Now, before I answer that question, Scott, you mentioned about the Earth's vibration. Are you referring to the Schumann resonance?
Yes.
so that is also a concept that is very much related, because if you are if if you on YouTube, you see a lot of people advertising soundtracks that can take you to the Schumann resonance. So it is being in line with the Earth's vibration, and also your own vibration. One of the things we do with adults is we get them to be in line with their heart center, the gut center, and the brain. The three centers have to be aligned. That's one of the things that we do with adults, especially. Now, about the question you asked, could you repeat your last
Yes, of course.
question?
Yeah,
You
I was
wanted
curious
to ask
about
something about?
the um the impact on the brain, the cognitive effects of practicing these skills and studying them,
Yes,
because I
okay.
know there will be residual effects. And
Scott, isn't that exactly what Dan is doing? He is showing how the different areas of the brain light up as we do these different practice these abilities. I think that's a very scientific question, which Dan Winter will be able to answer very clearly. But what I know is, I mean, there is the visual cortex and all those different areas of the brain. They are all lit up, become activated when we do these programs. And any learning, any learning creates new neural paths in the brain. Anything we learn creates new neural. And also, if you can bring in the idea of what is this one, uh, that the brain has the ability to adapt itself. So if when you challenge the brain to see without eyes, there's a nice dialogue given by one of the people, Mark Komisarov. Mark Komisarov, he puts it nicely in a dialogue. So when a person is blindfolded, the brain asks the eyes, what do you see? Then the eyes reply, we can't see anything. So the brain now tries to find a way of seeing without going through the eyes. So that's a very nice way of putting what happens in the brain. When you block out the eyes, the brain tries to meet the challenge by seeing, using, just like in the case of blind people, their visual ability is very strong. So like that, the brain has the even to rewire itself. I think you have heard of the word neuroplasticity
yes,
and neurogenesis. So this is how it impacts the brain. It is a big challenge, and the brain, rather than, the brain doesn't break down like the computer. If you load it, it doesn't break down. Rather, it challenges. It goes into a higher dimension, as it were. So it is a lot of, it's a lot of changes. I don't have the exact scientific terms, but we do know there is a change taking place in the brain, and that's exactly why we are promoting it. It's not just to entertain people by showing off that you can read blindfolded. It's because of the cognitive changes that take place that we want to promote this program. You
that
see,
makes sense.
at school, when we learn subjects, we are taking in information. School gives us facts, data, not knowledge.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I was
So
thinking,
we want to,
beyond the scientific methods of, using these antenna that we discussed to measure brain waves, there's also, different ways we can have a metric for a child's ability to learn or ability to create art or music or something. You can see an increase in like brain activity from certain activities that then they'll affect other activities in your life. So I've always felt that way, having studied music pretty seriously at a young age. Yeah, when I play music, when I play the saxophone or the flute, it it definitely stimulates my brain. It's an absolutely essential part of my learning process, and it will help me by playing music for an hour, then it will help me learn what I'm reading in my books. So there's an example of those like cross-linking of the cognitive effects of different types of studies.
another idea I want to actually we have been touching. So with these abilities, another aspect to our work is it's not only the individual, but as we progress, as we develop this ability, we are also helping humanity to progress into a higher level. There is a very famous book written by a man called Man Unknown. He spoke long ago the mysterious birth of a new species. The mysterious birth of a new species. This is what we are. And I think uh, you may have heard of the super psychic children of China. There is a new generation coming, new humanity. And you could even extend it to the Bible because the Bible speaks about a new heaven and a new earth. We are working towards that. It's a development of humanity. When we work with these abilities, we are helping to help humanity to evolve into the next stage of evolution.
Beautiful. That's really what it's about. Yeah, that makes me really happy. Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah, and I think, hearing about you said there's so many thousands of teachers in Mexico and thousands in Europe, it makes me feel a lot of hope for humanity and also realize, people don't know out there there's this whole world that they could plug into and they could participate in. That's your world. So can you share with us a little bit more about, your mission and how you see the potential to mainstream to bring this knowledge to the mainstream to all the people in the world.
Um, Scott, that's exactly our because we are few, so it requires advertising, marketing, which only big companies can do. But what we are doing is now, as I said, we are busy writing a few books that I think that will help us to spread the word more because uh, I only have the website at the moment and I haven't employed anyone to do a lot of advertising because my time is more devoted to teaching and researching. But I think what you say is we will take on board, we will do our best to spread the word to the world as much as possible. And now that the COVID restrictions are less, we may start again going over to places uh, abroad to hold classes. Yes, we will take that we will keep that idea in mind. And you have done a big job, big help by having this interview. I think we need, that's another area we can explore. Yes.
Definitely. And I would be happy to assist you in whatever way I can to produce some of those events. And, because I have hosted these natural building events for many years, I've taught at least one workshop every year since 2001, sometimes many workshops in a year. But lately, I'm more focused on quality over the quantity. And yeah, and I'm open to these types of collaborations. Anything that I think is really improving our state of consciousness of humanity, I'm very excited about. So, but yeah, what else? I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you about, do you experience some pretty major differences between your students depending on what country they come from? Or is it kind of more similar because it's the human mind ultimately, right?
I think, Scott, sorry, you earlier also you asked what age. What we find is children between 6 and 12 are the best age group. It's simply
Okay.
because after 12, when they start adolescence, there are a lot of hormonal changes taking place, and they affect the chemistry of the brain. Now, as regards children from different countries, what we find is there is a slight difference. For example, now in Sri Lanka, my home country, there is a lot of witchcraft in Sri Lanka. People still resort to witchcraft. So, and they believe in, or these negative entities like demons and devils. So some of the children we trained in Sri Lanka, they started to see those images, and the parents were concerned. Whereas in the West, the American children and the German children, they are not conversant with those abilities about these demons, so they don't see them. Now, even in America, I had a child, a Spanish speaking child. After a few sessions, she started to see negative entities, and the mother was worried. But it is nothing to be harmful, because with this ability, you may come in contact with other beings because you are going into another dimension. So that's one of the differences I have noted about children. But the ability is there, but how they manifest that ability and how they react, there are some differences.
Would you say that this ability to see without your eyes and potentially see these other entities in the in-between space, the next dimension, would you say that this is related at all to astral travel?
It is very much, shamans always, shamans in all cultures, shamans and medicine men, they all access the matrix and they come into contact with beings. And some of them, there are a lot of people who have written books dictated by somebody. There are so many adults who have written books. It's not them. It was dictated to them by another being, and that is acceptable. So yes, it is. I mean, in astral travel, they do come across with other beings, and then one part of the procedure is they are also trained to overcome negative influences, to put a shield of protection around them, right? So it is a known phenomena that you do come across other beings. Yes.
Fascinating. Yeah, I've heard stories from some friends of mine about when they astral traveled, they also saw some entities. And, so there's a lot of things going on in the world that are invisible, normally invisible, that could be made visible um, through one of these methods. But I'm also curious about, going back to the theme of just cognitive development in general. It's very exciting because if you study these techniques, it seems to me like your brain or your being, everything will continue to excel. And so I'm wondering if, like someone like me, for example, I spend time every day. I do a little bit of trading on the Forex market. So there are patterns and there are techniques to tap into the patterns so you can generate income, right? And so
Yes.
let's say you started studying how to see without your eyes and you master that. Do you think this kind of ability will augment your, more technical or intuitive sense so that you could do something like trading or maybe playing music or something? Do you think it would augment those other abilities as well?
Okay, good question. Um, Scott, not directly about forex trading. That student I mentioned, one day I we I got her to 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 see. So she is in New York. In New York State, you have the pick three. You know the pick three,
Yes.
the lottery. I got her to three numbers, and her mother put money 50 cents on pick three, and she got $500.
I see. Interesting.
So it is possible what you are saying. It we could extend. Also, seeing without eyes is very much close to what remote viewing. Remote viewing is exactly that, seeing what is far away. But with lotto and forex, with lotto it's much difficult because there are huge numbers. But with forex, when you if you can see patterns, trends, that makes it more easy for the subconscious mind to detect. Or, Scott, do you get me? Because
Yes.
remember, this ability, we are tapping into the subconscious mind, which is very powerful. And if you can, with the conscious mind, if you can see trends, the movements of the trades, then your subconscious mind can come in and give you more insights about predictions.
I see. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're tapping into the infinite intelligence of
Because
your subconscious.
Yeah, because what it comes down to is, with forex and patterns, you are dealing with a vast amount of data. The conscious mind may not be able to handle all that data. Computer can, but may not be the conscious mind. But the subconscious mind can handle any amount of data. There is no limit on it. So yes, I would say this ability, if that is your goal, it can definitely help you to do well with your forex trading.
That could be useful. And that is
Yes.
kind of similar to some of what I've been doing lately with the trading. And I believe that, by experience, it is going into my subconscious. So I'm kind of just giving myself the inoculation of the patterns, to start to feel and see the patterns. And I think that eventually it does kind of sink in more. But it's generally what we find to be the most profitable is um,
Yes.
sort of a combination of a very calculated and pretty rigid um, set of rules for a trade plan combined with one's, you know, intuition and intelligence in the moment, because there are a lot of factors. But unless you have that very strong base of something that's kind of non-emotional and preset pattern that you know is profitable, then it's very difficult, if not impossible, to be profitable. So I think that is a really good question and something to explore further with your education, because there's, you know, on the one hand, it's like this is just something really beautiful and it can help society flourish. And also, people are going to be interested when they see results, which is, you know, faster learning, faster reading, being able to see without their eyes. That's an ability, right? To see even in pitch black. Can you see in a pitch black night? Or
That's
do
right.
the blindfolded children need to, do they need light to see?
No, it's totally dark, especially when we do live training. When we do it with a group of children, we darken the room as much as possible. In addition to them having a blindfold, we also make the room as dark as possible. And also, I want to mention something about your forex trading. Remember, one of the results of our program is you learn to listen to your intuition more. You rely more on your intuition. And in forex, a lot of business people have realized that it is not only analytical mind, that they have to listen to your intuition. I think you mentioned that word, and that is where this program helps. It helps you to tune more into your intuition, to listen to your intuition.
Mm, beautiful. That's really appealing and exciting, definitely. And thinking about all of the potential conversations we can have about the future impact on our, on humanity, you know, by, if these types of skills can become more common, there are a lot of things that would change. It would be, maybe you don't need to bring a flashlight when you go camping.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Okay.
you can, uh, I don't know, there's a lot of potential there. You know, you can be awake at night and walk around at night. That's a huge skill right there.
I mean, I heard, I think I read somewhere, the future humans, we might not even need to talk. We, just like in the other dimension, you will know, you will communicate by telepathy.
It would be more efficient.
To be more efficient, yes. And also, another thing, I have another client who is more interested in teleportation. Teleportation. That's another
Right.
area. The Chinese are very far advanced on that one. Teleportation.
Yeah, and this is something I also learned about through Dan, which is Mr. Jean-Charles Moyen, who's a Frenchman who apparently has teleported many times with witnesses. And they've done a lot of testing on his brain to record his brainwave patterns. And
Yes?
apparently he reaches gamma state quite easily, which is super rare. Not very many
Oh,
people
okay.
can do gamma state at will. So yeah, there's all that. Jean Charles Moyen, he is a filmmaker, and he produced a film called South Shore Origin that's loosely based on his life. It's a kind of like a fictional, semi-documentary type story of his life, and it's fascinating. I love that movie. And, I'm kind of curious also, so for yourself, Raymond, like what brought you to this work in the first place? And what is your own personal relationship with some of these skills?
What most of my life, I was, especially from my university days, I was very much interested in different reading methods because in the university we had to read a lot of books, and I was thinking, is there a way where you could read quickly because every lecturer recommends about 10 books. So then, after some research, I did some speed reading, and then I still continued to search for more, and then I came across this one, photo reading, that is taught in America. That is, they teach you to mentally photograph the printed page. But the thing is, after photo reading, you don't consciously know everything in the book. So I went to USA and followed the training course, and then I keep searching for different people doing photo reading. And one day I heard about a program where they were teaching blind children, and that was in Malaysia. Fortunately for me, that month I was planning to go to Sri Lanka to teach photo reading to a group of businessmen. So I managed to contact this person, the Chinese gentleman who was teaching blindfold reading, and he gave me a demonstration in in uh, in Malaysia. And when I saw that girl reading blindfolded, immediately something went in my mind. I knew this is more than a magic trick. This has more potential. So I started to follow that one. Now, unfortunately, that Malaysian company, it was charging an astronomical figure for their license, something like $300,000 for a license. Now, that was too much. So I started to search for my own methods, and I came up with my own program. And while doing that, I also came to know about quantum speed reading that was being taught in Japan. So, I could say it was always searching for different reading methods, and also I had this. I read the book by John Huston, "The Possible Human." The possible human. These are the two things that brought me here to explore what is possible with humans, especially with the act of reading.
Fascinating. I would love to learn some quantum speed reading because I have an entire library of books in my office here, and I just love collecting my books. And there are a lot of books to read. Um, I hope to read all of them in my lifetime, and that would
This
be a great
one,
way to get it done.
Scott, this one is mind-boggling actually. The Japanese children, it's even for me, some of their claims are unbelievable. Not only one book, these Japanese children, they can go to a bookshop or library and read all the books while standing.
Wow, and
They
retain.
go through just go through the spine of the book. Just look at the shelves, go through the shelves
And
and
they can
read the
actually
books.
remember and recite aspects of those books.
Now, that's the thing, there's very little information available. I think what they get is not all the details, but they get sort of a gist, a summary of the book. You know, it is when we were doing this course, the lecturer told us, according to statistics, in a book, 80% of the meaning is in 20% of the words. A lot of words in a book are carrier words, like grammar, two of the, those are all carrier words. Most of the meaning is in 20%. So I think with quantum speed reading, what the children are accessing is the gist of the message, not all the finer details, like in a history book, when was the Russian war, when was the Civil War, not that kind of details, but they get an insight into the book. They sort of tap into the author's mind.
Yes. That's kind of like an approach that I've used for many years where I just buy a book and then I kind of flip through it every now and again, and pretty soon 10 years goes by and I've been kind of reading and flipping through some of my favorite books. And, maybe I've actually read 10% of the book, but I've looked at all of it and it's had an effect on me. So in that way, it's like I'm quite familiar with what's in that book. And it gives me the ability to then, if I know I'm looking for a certain answer to a problem or a certain idea, I know where to find it. And so in that way, it's like the book is an extension of your mind.
What exactly? That's one of the things we do. When we teach photo reading, we we demonstrate the ability by doing a dictionary game. We get you to photo read the dictionary, and then we tell you, go and look for the word impression. And then you will tell me that word is on such a page, on this column, and on top of the page. So this is one of the first abilities. You will know where to find the information in the book. If you have a library of books, I think the good example is a lawyer. A lawyer is researching a case. He knows there is a similar case in his books. He doesn't know which book because he has a whole series of books. With this method, you will be able to locate the exact volume and the exact page where the case law is. That kind of knowledge.
Yes.
You will be able to locate what you want to find quickly.
That sounds extremely useful. The best computers we have is right here. It's us. We are the computers. Yes. Wow. I mean, it makes me think of there's probably 100 different conversations we could have moving forward into the future about how this reality of these abilities that they really exist can affect our society, our modern society, where there's computers, there's money, there's encryption, there's a lot of information, there's the internet. So have you encountered anything a little bit strange or kind of interesting when maybe one of your students who is exceptional is out there in the world and realizes they can do something that no one else can do, and maybe that can affect the way that they can move through the world, such as winning the lottery?
Child still fascinates me because she not only translated the word chair to Polish, the word vehicle to Japanese, she even wrote, I don't know whether I showed you that video, she even wrote the word for mother in my native language. She wrote the word in my native language. She has never even heard of such a language called Sinhalese. She wrote exactly how we write the Sinhala word for mother. Now
Wow.
that's I was amazed at that ability.
Yes.
And then she asked, can you ask me another one? And then I said, okay, what is the singular word for father, and she wrote again in our script the word for father. I mean, how could she do that? She has never heard of a language called Sinhalese. She cannot write the characters, but she wrote the two words for mother and father.
That's fascinating.
That's the most amazing thing that I had. Yes, I will never forget that one.
Outstanding.
And then,
Outstanding.
Scott,
Yeah.
to sum up the conversation, I think you mentioned about the abilities. There is a famous quote: "The greatest unexplored territory is the space between our ears."
So true. So true. I completely agree. Yeah, and
People have gone to the moon. People have gone to the bottom of the ocean. But the greatest unexplored territory is the space between the ears.
the biggest adventure. Yeah. So true. So true. Well, thank you again, Raymond. This is really a special time to, just get into this stuff with you. And I hope we can have more conversations like this and just continue, promoting this beautiful, amazing world that you're in, and also just exploring with our own minds, what we're curious about. So I love it.
Thank you. I have to thank you, Scott. This is a wonderful opportunity to spread the word. We thank you. I don't know exactly how we can thank you enough. Thank you for the opportunity you gave to explain our program.
Oh, it's such an honor, and I hope, thank you to the audience. I hope everybody knows that, Raymond is available. You can get in touch with him. We're going to put your contact information in the description below, and you can participate in the Ruwan School, the Ruwan Education Center, through
Right,
Raymond
yes.
and his partners.
Tell your audience, Scott, anyone is free to ask, and we will give a 1 hour free demonstration over Zoom. Anyone interested, we will give you a demonstration and explanation of our program. You just have to contact us only.